Hello, people. Podcast is live, and today we have Jin, also known as Jin Yue, right? Did I say it
Yo,
right?
yep.
Yep.
Yin Yue, yep.
All right, good. Today we're gonna do something a little different. Last month it was just by myself, and since we have Jin today, I'm gonna try and see if this structure works. So what we're gonna do today is start out with a little interview, let Jin talk a little bit about himself, his artwork, and whatnot, and then if this kind of way works, then I'll keep it going, and if not, then I'll switch it up and just do something a little different next month when I bring different people. So, Jin, talk a little bit about yourself and what kind of content you draw, etc. Or like,
All right.
when did you
All right.
start?
All right, sounds good. All right. As Rosen introduced, I'm Yin Yue, and you can find my stuff generally on yinyueart.tumblr.com. Yin Yue and art are separated by a hyphen. I've mostly been drawing for probably about 4 years now, counting the days. Most of my content has been focused on adult-oriented art, a majority of them being in the Futanari genre. Let's see. I spent at least a year trying to figure out digital drawing by myself, and I figured I was going nowhere with that, so I went to art school for another year. And after graduating, my art wasn't that good either, so I've just spent these last 2 years since 2016 just polishing my skills. And what better place to polish it than drawing Futanari?
I can imagine. I mean, I started drawing. I think we're on the same field. I started drawing. Well, actually, taking my art seriously like 4 years ago too.
Yeah, man.
Once I graduated college, ironically, I went to college for an art degree, and I did not draw at all. For 4 years of college, I was mostly focused on my social life and just making the best out of college, not my career. So essentially, I feel you. I graduated and I was like, I don't know how to fucking draw. So basically, it's been 4 years me trying to figure out what the fuck do I do. Essentially I graduated like maybe with like how you did with just the basics. Like, okay, this is how you do it. Good luck.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to an art school like you did, where it was like it was fucking hell on earth. It was it was a liberal art school, and it's one of those programs where it's like anything can be art. And
Yeah.
it's like a tampon on the wall, like a bloody tampon on the wall is art. You know, and like it's like it's not objective, it's subjective, and like I hate that shit. So that's the kind of program I went to. The only teacher there were only few teachers that liked me in that school because I was like that. At least in my art program, not because I was an asshole. It was because like I had that mentality where I was like, no, not everything can be art. Art actually takes time to learn, and like you can't just be subjective. Like there's a point to it. Only my anatomy teacher and my graphic design teacher were the only people that were like on board with me. And then there was another one that wanted to be my advisor, and it was the screen printing teacher. Actually, she really liked, because I was very like graphical when I was in school, but I was also very like, I like prints and stuff like that. So she wanted to like, I can mentor you, and I was like, no, like I want to do something. Like I was being egged by my parents. It's like, well, art isn't really a career, just do graphic design. So that's how I ended up just focusing more on graphic design than art. And I graduated with a little bit of marketing and graphic design, and I went to do advertising, and then, you know, the rest is history, as they say. So it wasn't like your case, like you've explained it to me. So, but for anyone that wasn't isn't aware of your school, would you mind giving them a little bit of like what happened in Singapore?
Yeah. So I went to FZD School of Design in Singapore, and they had a pretty interesting regiment. 1 year course. How would you take a beginner all the way to a professional in a single year? You basically work the hell out of them. We were expected to work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was homework piled up the asshole, and you were expected to complete them within a week's time. And they would just keep on piling homework every single day. There were times when I did not sleep. There were weeks when I did not sleep or eat.
Jeez.
It is, like I affectionately put it, a concentration camp for artists. Sole purpose was to make you, groom you from a beginner straight to professional, but their program doesn't really work. At least in their program, there are people who go in who have already been to art school. So they would have the advantage, and they would be the half the class that always gets promoted by the school. And then the total beginners, they kind of just like me, just kind of get swept off to the side. Yeah, it kind of sucked.
I I wanted to ask you about the interesting like the interesting topic about that you told me that it was there's two schools in Singapore that are
Oh, yeah.
with the one that you were in and the other one was a competition, but the artists that head those two schools are the rivals, sort of.
Right, right.
One more
Yeah.
than the other thinks it's a rivalry. The other one just like doesn't give a shit.
Right.
Would you, would you mind talking a little bit about that one? Because
Yeah.
I found it really interesting.
So we had, or Art Germ also has an art school in Singapore. I forget the name exactly, but we would share the same bus route. So a lot of our students interacted with each other. And the rumor mill blew up because in the middle of the year, we were talking about how the owner of my art school, Feng Zhu, was trying to basically he stole some teachers, or they were both schools were scouting for the same teachers, and Feng Zhu basically sniped them away. The two supporting teachers for FZD are now working for FZD because they've basically been given better opportunity. Basically, they've been stolen by Feng Zhu, and Art Germ was pissed about that for the longest time, is what I hear in the rumor mill. But besides that, there was also, should I mention the thing about how we always keep on competing with each other?
You mentioned that you just mentioned about the two like top guys. You didn't mention about the competition.
Not so much of competitions. Like we were showing each other our work, and we would always mention how their school's work always looks like it was Art Germ. Everything looks like it was made from Art Germ because that school always taught Art Germ's method of drawing and painting. So yeah, that was the thing.
See, that's a problem because a lot of schools have that issue where they'll teach you as like some like it depends really. I didn't have that case because mine wasn't like really like an art school per se. It was just like, well, we have an art program kind of school.
Right.
So basically my teacher was like, if you want to learn like it like this lady was really nice. She would always like let us bring like anything that we would find on the internet that would help us draw, or like if you find any tutorials on the internet, you can bring them over. And like at that time I spent a lot of time on Tumblr like just browsing, and I used to see a lot of tutorials because I somehow thought those would be like helpful for me at that stage when like most of them required you to have some sort of knowledge. And I would bring them over to class, and she's like, oh, so it wasn't like it was an open like the anatomy class was just like open, and she would always tell me, if you want to get better at anatomy, just look at Andrew Loomis. That's like, I would say that would be the only thing that like she didn't tell me to look at anyone else. She was just like, because she kind of knew that what I wanted to get into was kind of illustration. She was like, just look at Andrew Loomis. That's what she told me. Like I would look at his work, but it's like I don't have that habit of just like doing that self-study for art unless it's
Right.
like just me like practicing circles and like construction and stuff. But Andrew Loomis is actually like what kicked me off, sort of. Even though like I didn't study him too much, it sort of kicked me off getting into the habit of practicing. But we didn't have a specific. She wasn't very like the teachers weren't very specific. But I can imagine like schools like that where the teachers or like the headmasters or whatever are people that are like certainly very mixed in with the business or whatever, and their mentality is like this is the only way to be successful because I've done it and it's a proven method. They'll teach you. That's their mentality because I've heard it from other schools in different fields, where it's like this is the method that works. We will only
Right.
teach you this, and you will fail if you don't duplicate this method because
Yeah.
they're not interested in most like contrary to popular belief, most art schools they're not seeking people to be their own voice. They just want more of the same because they want you to be successful because it's better for them in terms of
Yeah.
reputation. It's not like letting people have their own style does not work in terms of success in the long run because it takes so long for you to build a style upon graduation or during your school years. It doesn't work for everybody. It's some people are lucky and they just develop something that's amazing and everyone wants that and they're like successful right off the bat. But most
Hmm.
people, I can guarantee you, they don't have a style. It looks like it's like when you go online and you see like 50 people that look like Slugbox or 50 people that look like I don't know a copy of like some famous Japanese artist. It's because a lot of people view something they like and they just want to replicate it. And it also happens with how can like it's just a subconscious thing too. Like you see something that's popular, if you just do it the same way, it's gonna make you popular.
Right.
That's
Right.
it's not even like something that people say or think, but it's subconscious, and that's why it's also the same thing that happens when you go to schools like that or schools that are very technical or stuff like that. It's like when you go to well, I'd say it's only mostly for stuff in the creative field or in the design field and stuff like that. Because if you go to engineering school, they'll tell you you can't do it this way. You don't. You have to do it this way. It's because those kinds of careers are very specific.
Right.
Unless you invent some new form of like a new machine or something like that, it's not. Art is very subjective, but there's a scientific method to art, and art is definitely a science. The same with cooking, the same with music. It's a science, and there are methods that work. And in art, even though it's subjective and objective at the same time, there are things that have been formulaic and know that work. Um, so like that's why you have schools like the one you went to, and schools like the other guy, where his
Right.
method where his method is just copy paste for everyone.
Yeah. They were just prepping you for a very specific role, which is just concept art, which I would more like to. I'm in your camp. I like to do illustration more so than concept art. Concept art requires a lot more iteration upon iteration. It's where you submit a design, get feedback, redraw it over and over again, and this is all done in line art. And I don't like doing line art a lot. It's not my chosen field. I want to paint a lot. I like to be like Bob Ross, painting happy trees all the time.
Just host your own Friday show. There's like,
Yeah.
here's how you paint a happy dick.
Oh yeah. There we go. Bliss right there.
Like here's my opinion on concept art. Anyone can do it. I think out of art, it's the easiest field. And before people lynch me on that statement, the reason why anyone can do it is because you can teach concept art. You can
Yeah.
go, here's how you do concept art. Just draw realistically, or just draw less detailed, and just draw these things. Anyone with a little bit of training can do it. I'm not saying that anyone can just pick it up and do it. Like you obviously need intense training for that. What I'm saying is it's easier to be a concept artist than being someone, say in the field of illustration, the field of comics, or something like that, that stands out and people will follow. Because if you follow, like concept art is very industry related. It's something that
Yeah.
it's not a field like you can submit concept art on Tumblr or whatever, and people will look at it and be like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I like this concept, but it doesn't go any further. It's just a concept, you know? You can do a lot of concept
Hmm.
art, but once you start doing poses and like stuff like that, that becomes more into illustration. So there's a clear separation of what concept art and illustration is, at least in my opinion. Like, someone can feel free to correct me on that. But anyone with a year of training or whatever can pick up being a concept artist and just go and do it. Because there's a lot of companies that need concept artists, and they'll be like, when you see like a Marvel movie, like pay attention to the concept artists. There's a huge list. I can guarantee you there were many more that were hired for that. Like, say a movie like Thor Ragnarok. And I
Hmm.
guarantee you a lot of them didn't have a style. They were just hired to do the same thing. It's just like we need concept for costumes, or so that's why I'm saying like anyone can do it. However, being an artist that delves into illustration, makes comics, writes stuff, and stands out, because you got to realize that there's, out of people like us, there's a million more. Well, obviously better than us, but like there's tons. You're not the only one, but like the hard part is standing out and being lucky. And so that's why I'm saying like anyone can make it with concept art. And I'm not saying that it's like anyone can pick it up and just be really good at it. It's just anyone can pick it up and just make it in the industry. Even though there's a lot easier than it is to just make it on your own on social media. Even if we have platforms like Patreon and stuff like that, it's much more difficult.
Yeah, that is true. But what you're talking about though is it feels like the availability of concept art jobs, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of draw me cardboard box B or wooden crate C or ladder D.
Mm-hmm.
That is like the majority of your job,
Yeah.
and it sucks. The elite few are the ones who get to do the character design, a costume design, environment design. These people are generally the big names, and they would typically pull double duty, being concept artist and illustrator, and matte painter sometimes if need be. Honestly, it's rather fluid, at least in the movie making industry. Video game, they tier everything off relatively absolute. Concept art has to do concept art things. Illustrator has to do illustrator things. So yeah, there's a bit of a difference between each industry, but overall, it's generally as you said.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. Like in being a concept artist, you can stay, like some people unfortunately stay in the same position for years. But
Right.
once you have a certain level of experience, like you have 5 years of experience, and on the side you've been drawing like higher tier stuff, like characters and stuff like that, and you have your own portfolio. So it's almost like any other job. Like it's obviously like any other job where like you've drawn like 50 boxes for B company, let's say Marvel, right? You've
Hmm.
drawn like the environments and whatnot, like the lower end of the concept art. But on the side, you obviously make your own stuff, and then
Right.
you'll have a portfolio. So it's easier in that sense, where like you've worked, like finding jobs isn't easy. I'm just gonna be clear on that. Like finding a job is not easy, but we're putting it in perspective. So in concept art, once you have that job, say, and you do it for 2 3 years, you want to move on to something different. There's the good thing about the internet and what's going on recently, where there's a lot more crowdfunding, there's a lot more indie, is that there's more availability for jobs and for you to do your own thing. But a lot of companies are seeking out, the problem with indie is that people have this idea that indie is like the way to go, and I agree on that. But indie people are looking out for names, and that's why it's better to like search for a job at a bigger company. And that's why it's easier in the concept art field to find a job than to make it on your own or on the indie industry, because indie industry, it's a small team, and the money that you have for whatever project you're working on, you want to spend it on someone that will do it right for you the first time. You don't want to experiment. You want to go for something that you're sure of. That when you see it, you're like, okay. Sometimes you can take that gamble, but for a project that you essentially are just like on your own about, that you're kind of like, I only have this limited budget. I can't fuck around too much. they seek out either bigger names or people that have a little are known a little bit on the internet or wherever, or they'll go to the industry and be like, okay, we know this guy, just pick him off, and just be like, work for us. That's the thing about the indie industry, and why it's difficult for you to make it, because it's very narrow, and the general public is a little more picky about the stuff they like or the stuff they want to see. The industry like standards don't care. This is all my opinion, by the way. This isn't like a fact. This is just like what I've observed. Disclaimer. The industry normally doesn't care. It's a lot like going to a fast food restaurant and you're like, why the fuck is this guy working? He's obviously fucked up my hamburger like 50 times. I'm not saying that's the same thing on like an industry level, like more executive or production wise, but they're not terribly picky. They just want people to do the job for them. They'll pay them like as little as they can, and then move on. They're not looking for perfection, because the only perfect things they care about are on the upper tiers, where like they've already filtered all these concepts or whatever, and they're on the final stages of production for either movies, games, or animation. In the indie side, it's just you go straight ahead. Like you have one guy that makes everything. You have one guy that does the other things, and it's very small, and that's why it's hard. And you have animation companies like Trigger, where it's only like the elite of the elite. But that's because they're still an indie company, mind you, because they're small and they're independent, and it was made by a group of people that were really good at what they would do, and that's why their animation is always kick-ass. Because it's a small group and it's controlled. That's why when you have movies like Marvel, or any fucking Disney movie at this point, I guess, like Star Wars or whatever, it's just teams and teams of people. There's no quality control, really, to be honest, because there's so many people that get hired. And in these industries, you just like, in the indie industry is more like narrow, and there's a clear goal to the end. And I'm not saying like there's more success in the indie field than in the, it's about the same level, I think. Because we've seen our share of shitty Kickstarter projects, shitty games that people like overhype, and then when you get them, you're like, oh fuck, this sucks. Like, Yooka-Laylee or like Mighty Number 9.
Yeah.
It's just in general, that's the kind of thing you gotta think about if you want to get into art. It's just like what kind of branch you want to get into, but then like concept art, I think, however, it's not a bad career. It's a good career. In my opinion, it's not the one I care about, because I have other ideas and my mentality is not, making like concept and stuff. And I have to do it for any project that I work on. I have to sit down, design characters, come up with stuff like that. But it's for me, it's a little different, because it's not, the end product isn't something major,
Right.
That's why I come back to saying that I think, in my opinion, it's easier to be a concept artist, because you can just pick it up and go. And being independent or trying to make it in the social media or Patreon or what have you is a lot harder.
Yeah, that's definitely true. At least they're only looking for a few things if you're looking to become a beginner concept artist. As long as you do perspective correct, they don't care how you do it. You pretty much got the job, more or less. Oh, man. But yeah, it's a long road.
Yeah.
Getting all the required skills.
It's definitely it's still hard. Anywhere is still hard. But concept art, people aren't looking for individuality. They're just looking for you to be able to do the job right. You can draw a box in perspective, yeah, all right. I don't care. Just fucking sit down and like, you're gonna draw 50 boxes today, and like they all have to have the Avengers logo, or they have to have, I don't know, the Batman logo on it. Like, I mean, basically that's all they're looking for now, because like all we have in movies is comic book movies or video games. We're gonna make the next Overwatch. Sit down and make 50 guns. I mean, that's basically what FPS has evolved into, right? Like, even games like Fortnite, you're having like a choice of different characters you can load out with. And that's not to say that it hasn't been done before, but
it feels like the industry is is like Me Too right now. Every
Yes,
AAA.
I fucking agree with that. Yeah, it's the we've come to a point where the industry in any category is the Me Too. Oh, Marvel has a cinematic universe? Well, guess what? Universal's gonna have its own monster universe. Like, are you fucking
Oh
kidding
man,
me?
it
Um,
takes so bad.
that oh my god. Did you ever see the trailer for that?
Yes,
That
and
was
I knew immediately.
that was like the most cringe-inducing thing ever. Oh my
Yep.
god. They have first of all, for anyone who hasn't seen it, please look it up. But look up the if they still have it up. I doubt they have it up because Universal like they just went down the shitter. But
Hmm.
there was this trailer for the Universal's Monster whatever universe. They take these black and white movies like like the original Mummy, Frankenstein, etc. And they put this like the epic music they put on every trailer. It was shittily edited too because it was like they didn't even take the exciting parts of the movies. They just used like still shots of like or like very slow moving parts of the movies. So obviously the person that was doing that trailer didn't know what they were doing. But it was even if the old monster movies were not only just like they hold up today because they're classic movies, and anyone who wants to get into movies should look at them. But they were not exciting, action-packed movies. They were just slow movies because it was a horror movie, and like it differs from like what we have today. But they were kind of like scary movies, and they were about the monster, the human condition, what have you. They weren't necessarily like this is not what those people envisioned.
Yeah.
So it was just the worst. And I didn't see it, but the Mummy that came out for the first movie for that came out, I just heard it was horrible, horrible.
Oh yeah.
You saw it?
No, no. I saw the reaction to it online.
Oh my god, no! I've seen my fair share of reviewers just tear the movie apart,
Yep.
and I think that's like sometimes like I don't even want to watch a movie. I'll just see the review of it because
Hmm.
at the isn't it incredible? We're at the point in like history where it's more interesting to see a reviewer than it is to see the movie.
Right.
Like before, it was just like Roger Ebert write a review on like fucking I don't know Star Wars, and holy shit, like I would rather sit down, watch an hour long video of someone tear apart I don't know Star Wars like the Last Jedi because I find it more interesting than the movie itself because it's just
Yeah.
piecing the movie apart and you're just kind of like but I didn't realize that until like the other day where I was sitting. It's like I don't want to go to the movie, but then like I just rather sit down and watch this review, and then I like backed and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Oh man, going along with that trend though, it feels like a lot of people are just not. They're afraid to try new things these days. Just like how the rebooted Star Wars was basically Episode 4 rehashed.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off for a second, but I kind of wanted to bounce out on that point that you're making. There's a
Hmm.
really good interview with George Lucas. It's an interview with him after he sold Star Wars. And there's an interesting bit, like a lot of it, what he says, it's like it's an old kook, but whatever. Uh,
Hmm.
but he touches on a few good points, and one of the points that he said is that movies, like I mentioned earlier, is a lot like gambling. And nowadays, the gambling is backed up by market research, and most companies don't want to take that gamble. They'll tell them like I think his analogy was like, well, we told him to like he's gonna go bet, but what if we tell him not to bet on red, to bet on like because we researched, like that kind of stuff, and it's very
Hmm.
true because nowadays if it and he says this too nowadays if it's not a name or something recognizable, they won't do it.
Yeah. Yep. It's all based on risk assessment, and developing a new IP always infers huge amounts of risks. The chances of a new IP taking off are rather slim, relatively speaking. So that's basically the kind of world we live in these days. These businesses are too big to take risks. They're scared that the risk will alienate the audience and basically drive them away from the market. I can't really remember what the biggest risk takers were, at least this year. But yeah, it's not coming. It's not coming to me. But definitely, a lot of movies are rehashing same ideas, and then you have basically movies that are parodies of themselves, like Deadpool, where it's a good movie, but it's like making fun of its own genre by now, and this
It's
is kind of like
self-aware.
a yeah. I forget what it's called though, but it is like derivative. It's derivative in the superhero genre, and we might be on a track where everything just keeps getting derivative from then on.
I think another part of the industry too, it's that it's getting dumber.
Yeah.
Because here's a good example. Blade Runner 2049 was fucking
Yeah.
brilliant. I love that movie. That's my favorite movie now. And it's not because it's like out of this world, like a script is out of this world. It's because everything about it is precious, in my opinion. Like everyone can choose to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is slow. I will recognize that. However, the movie is not. It doesn't treat its audience like it's stupid. It does have points where it has to slow down, like ironically slow down a little bit to explain things to people, but it doesn't beat you over the head about it. And it didn't go do
Right.
well in the box office. People didn't go to watch it because they said I went with my family to see it and most of my family liked it, but some like my grandfather and like someone else said the movie is stupid. It's too slow and I didn't like it. Because there's no like it's not dumb.
Yeah.
It's not a stupid movie. And when you have movies like fucking like and I'll compare The Last Jedi. It's dumb. It's not Star Wars. Well, it is Star Wars because it says Star Wars in the name, but it's stupid. And if you compare it to something like and it's a fair assessment, like compare movies, like let's compare The Last Jedi. Why does The Last Jedi not work? For people like us at least. I'm not saying that we're elitist or whatever, but we don't like stupid movies. And why does a movie like that one, like The Last Jedi, not do well in comparison to say The Empire Strikes Back? Because it was and these aren't meant to be like larger than life movies. Star Wars wasn't that. It's fun space adventures. It's just these are just movies and it's fun to be part of the fandom, but you move on with your life. But
Mm-hmm.
the reason why these movies are like these new ones are kind of insulting is because having grown up with like good movies, like I grew up with 80 movies, even though like I grew up in I was born in the 90s and stuff. My parents loved the 80s and I grew up with these movies and these comedies and everything before like we get to the early 2000s was smarter, relatively smarter than what we have today. And you can see a clear divide of why movies were like just drop and get stupid. And something like The Empire Strikes Back is smarter, not because it's like a brilliant script. It's a great fucking movie, but it stands alone. And it is like everything about it is like well done, well paced. It doesn't treat you like you're a fucking idiot. And that's what all these movies do. Even the Marvel movies, they're dumb. They're just loud movies. And like part of the reason why I don't enjoy going to all of these, it's not because I think I'm smarter than they are. It's just because I'm kind of sick of it. Because I go and I'm just getting more of the same thing. And people want that. And that's why they get stupid because they're like, "Well, let's not put any effort into this. Let's just do another superhero movie." And that's why I don't want to see Black Panther either, because I was like, why am I going to go watch another like hero origin? And it's probably not even going to be smart about like the way they're going to treat the character. It's just going to be another character and people are just happy about it because he's black. And it doesn't have to, because I've seen people deconstruct the movie and as I was like listening to the plot or whatever, I was like, this is just Iron Man, or this is just Captain America, or this is that. It's the thing why the movies today are stupid. It's because it's more of the same. And here's
It's
the thing, though.
formulaic.
Before someone calls me a hypocrite, the reason why I enjoy, I went to see Death Wish, the new Bruce Willis movie, which is ironically, is based off an older movie. But I enjoyed that movie because I'm able to turn my brain off because I know this movie no, this movie was aware of what it was. It's just a dumb action movie where Bruce Willis goes around and kills people. And for me, that was easier to digest than something that thinks. Here's the thing: movies that are stupid and are aware of it are more fun to watch, because movies like the Marvel, any Disney movie, like Star Wars or Disney or Marvel universe, thinks it's smarter than you, and will treat you like an idiot, and will flatly explain everything that's going on, or just do something that you're like, but this is more of the, like, I'm not stupid. This is more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to, like, they'll do these things like, will you watch like B-roll, or you'll see like interviews where they're like, oh, this character's so strong, even though like the main character for Rey is likable. She's not a strong character. She's just a Mary Sue. Because it's like they're trying to be like the, and I'm not saying like anything like against it. It's just like they're trying to pull this empowered woman thing, where every time they say that, I was like, have you seen Kill Bill? Have you seen Aliens? Like, they have, like,
Yeah.
if you watch those movies where they are smarter, a million times smart, and have women characters that are strong, you can't pull that shit off. Like, because the thing is, they assume most people haven't seen these movies, or they just forget they exist. And when they make it, they're like, you know, like what happened with the Ghostbusters. Like, they were trying to push this like feminist agenda, but then you have a movie like Annihilation, which is a fucking great movie, and it has 4 like women in it, and they're not dumb about it. It's like a serious science movie that came out this year, and that's a problem we have with Hollywood, is that they're trying to be smarter than you, but we're wise enough to know that these movies are just made for mass consumption.
Yeah, I feel like these days you either make a blockbuster or you either make an Oscar bait.
Oh God.
There's no room for good storytelling or imaginative design anymore.
No, that's why like people like Guillermo del Toro, they're a breath of fresh air. And I'm pretty sure his movie The Shape of Water probably had some stuff that they told him to cut from the movie, because I feel like he's a person that's unrestrained and he wants to put a lot of weird shit in his movies. But, you know, you got to have that, like, we need it to be a mass appeal movie. And I'm pretty sure like that's why like I'm always interested in director's cut from people that aren't Brett Ratner or someone that's like a studio guy. Someone like Guillermo del Toro that's a good filmmaker and director. I like watching those director's cuts because they'll have stuff that's like that was cut, and then you're like, holy shit, I wish this was in the movie. But obviously they can't have it because people don't want to watch it.
Yeah. It's the type of industry they evolved to, basically. It's kind of worrying to see what will happen going forward from here, but
Well, at this point, the only things in the movies that you'll be able to see is either another Marvel movie, a Pixar movie, or a Star Wars movie. That's like that's my prediction. That's gonna be not even like 20 years from now. In 5 years, people will not go to movie. People will go to movie theaters because there's only 4 movies showing, and it's either owned by Disney, or it's like random fucking thing that got greenlit, and that's all we're gonna have, and everything's gonna be shoved into Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever is like popular at that time.
yeah. There's also something else though. China is making a big play into getting into Hollywood's market. At least part of during my year at art school, a part of the focus my teachers were working on was setting up China's Hollywood, basically. And they were given almost an unlimited budget to see it through. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're making a play, and it's most likely gonna bear fruit pretty soon. So we gotta watch out for that. At least right now, a lot of movies are pandering to Chinese audiences.
Oh, speaking of China, do you want to know why Star Wars The Last Jedi didn't do well in China?
Oh, why?
They were trying to appeal to China, and I'm pretty sure the main, like, you know that like like stupid character Rose, the Asian girl that like falls in love with
Yep.
like that's the love plot that's forced in at the last minute.
Oh
Um,
man.
love. Oh my god, they should have let him die. It would have been so much better. It would have redeemed the movie, in my opinion. Not because like he died. It's because his character would be the only one to have meaning in the entire thing. But whatever. So they wanted to appeal to the Asian market, I think is what they like said, but I'm pretty sure it was just like China. So
Yeah.
the two girls that were hired that were like prominently shown as the Asian girls in the movie were Vietnamese, I think. Not even Chinese,
Oh, yeah.
Vietnamese. And you can feel free to correct me, but I've heard that China doesn't like black people very much. And having Finn be kissed by an Asian girl in the movie was not very well received in China. And I think the numbers in China are like after the first week, the drop off rate was like 70 or 90%.
Damn. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah. Either if they're gonna want to do a mass appeal on China, they're either gonna have to kill Rose or Finn off camera and just be like, yeah, that wasn't important. But
Oh my god.
but yeah, that's why they had Donnie Yen in Rogue One. Even though like he did nothing of note other than be the wise Asian guy about the Force and he knows kung fu magically. Like which was insult because like you have Donnie Yen who's a actor, who's a kung fu fighter, and he's just blind with a stick. And he does nothing other than say that he's one with the Force and die in the battlefield. That's it. So, and oh my god, and like China's the reason why we keep having Transformers movies.
Straight up, yep.
Straight up, the reason why we still there's like 20 movies in progress. Not sure that's the right number, but I know there's like an absurd amount where Michael Bay's like, I'll just feed you money and you guys just like he has nothing to do with that franchise other than he feeds it money and people go see it in China.
Yeah.
Because we don't see it, but something like something like Star Wars doesn't do well, but something like Transformers will, where it's actually dumber than what we have now. But and it makes no sense, but they still go watch it, and I guess they love robots there.
I think they more enjoyed the references. The filming of mostly takes place in Shanghai and Hong Kong, as well as the numerous product placements
Oh, I did
that
not.
somehow Michael Bay manages to sneak in, or I don't know, squeeze into his ridiculous films. It's nuts. It's like I remember in Honest Trailers where they just list off all the Chinese products that were on screen, and I've recognized more than a few. It was hilarious.
Yeah, so that's my biggest worry. Where like everything that we do, every movie that's done, it's just gonna be tailored for. It's not gonna be tailored for us. It's just like, what is China like? I don't know. I don't know that how Black Panther's doing in China, but yeah, it's gonna be a rough coming years for cinema.
Yep.
Or here's my hope: Hollywood will collapse on itself, because I am hoping that people just wise up or just get sick of, not even just like wise up, they just get sick of it and people just don't go to movies anymore and they're like, fuck it, we're not watching this. I'd rather watch this stupid little thing on Netflix. Or I don't know. That's my hope, is that Hollywood dies at this point. It's horrible to say that, but how many fucking more, like how many more fucking Avengers movies are we gonna get? What else? Like, Star Trek and Star Wars are becoming the same shit. The only difference is name. Every movie is becoming the same shit. The only thing is that one is a superhero movie and the other guy shoots with guns.
Yeah.
Or this one's in space. Yeah, but Guardians of the Galaxy is in space. You know, what's the difference? Well, it's a superhero movie. Okay, but Luke has the Force. So, you know where I'm getting at? Like,
Yeah.
the distinction between movies is
It's
disappearing.
even hard to tell the visual aspects apart these days.
Yeah.
It's like you know something is like wrong when every single spaceship looks the same, regardless of what movie you go to, or every single piece of tech looks roughly the same.
No one's impressed with visual effects anymore.
Yeah.
Like we got into a point where you can't say the visual effects were good. The only movie that can say that today is Doctor Strange, in my opinion, because they did something creative with visual effects. It wasn't like, look at this spaceship or look at this thing that looks almost real. No, I don't know. Like it's just here's like there's a question in the chat, so I'm gonna address that one after this point. But here's the reason why my favorite Marvel movie is Thor Ragnarok. They're all the same, but this one is different because it's not formulaic in the complete sense. It was fun in my opinion. It wasn't something where I was like, oh my god, here we go again. It had personality. Like there was a director behind it, and it didn't get bogged down on the details. It was just like this is Thor, like and Hulk. They're just smashing shit because they're dumb characters, and I like that.
Yeah.
That was fun. Like why can't movies be like that where it's just like it doesn't get bogged down in the details. It's not smarter than you. It was just a dumb superhero movie. It knew it was a dumb superhero movie. And not in the sense where Deadpool did it. It was more in the sense of like, these are just characters that are not smart. Bruce Banner is smart, but even then, like, he doesn't use his brain at all. He was just like, fuck it, I'll just turn into the Hulk. Because my brains won't work in this situation. And everything was just stupid and fun. And that, like, movies need to be fun.
Yeah. It definitely felt like a breath of fresh air, that one.
And the soundtrack is... I listen to the soundtrack sometimes. Like, I like synths, so that's why, like, I enjoy the Blade Runner soundtrack and the Stranger Things soundtrack. I like it a lot. This movie, I like it a lot, too. Thor Ragnarok. I guess we're going to move into anime a little bit. Question. Are popular animes becoming the same or too predictable or cookie-cutter characters? I can agree. Yes. It's happening in anime, too. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's every industry is plagued. Anime is there's so much anime and so many characters that it's become like, ironically, it's become like real life, where like a lot of people just look the same. There's so many characters that a lot of them look the same. They behave the same. There's a specific formula that works. And my favorite, and there's archetypes. There's archetypes of characters that people say, I like this kind of archetype, because there's so many of them that you're not even referencing a character. You're just referencing a behavior that's used often.
And more so, this is also an industry that is plagued with fears of introducing new ideas. At least the majority of anime I've seen being released, I can already tell it's going to be set in high school, protagonists age around a certain age, and they're going to be doing some slice of life bullshit.
And even they'll introduce like a shonen arc where, here's what I'll say. My favorite anime right now is Konosuba, because it breaks everything. Like it's such a breath of fresh air in this industry. It breaks everything. It took a gamble on the because a lot of them are being based on light novels, not on new original ideas or mangas, just light novels. Yeah. And this one just took everything and turned it on its head. And it's such a stark contrast with the anime that I hate the most, which is Sword Art Online. Which is for me, it's, you can like it or whatever, I hate it. It's the worst thing ever. And Konosuba just grabs every genre, or this specific, the genre it's based on, it's like the fucking like MMORPG stuff. And it turns it on its head. And it wrecks it. And every character is so over the top. And it thrives on like its exaggeration and like what it's doing, and that's why I like it. Reasons why I can't enjoy an anime like, say, My Hero Academia. I can't watch it. It's not bad. It's just like, I know I know the beats. I know what this is before you lynch me. It's not it's not a bad anime. The designs are nice, and the concept is interesting. But there was a movie that did it, and it was called Sky High, and it's not a good movie. But everything in that anime, it's a shonen anime, and it's not a breath of fresh air, because everything it does, it's more of the same for me. And I am not willing to sit down and read something long or look at something long to get more of the same. I don't want to watch a series where the character fucking give me something bland, give me bland looking characters, but give me something interesting, a plot that's interesting, something short. Studio Trigger animes are fun to watch because they're short, they're self-contained, and they're different. In most cases, they're different. And I don't want to, like, people think like you need to like watch My Hero. No, it's a shonen, and it breaks a little bit of the stereotypes, but it's more of the same. And that's why I can safely watch Konosuba and just be happy with it, because it's something different, and it takes a genre and flips it on its head, and it's not more of the same. It's like technically it's not more of the same. It's just something that's like subverts your expectations in many ways. But I'm not gonna sit down and watch the same shit.
Yeah, it kind of funny thought just occurred to me, but basically, isn't Kill la Kill a magical girl show?
Yeah, it kind of
Oh man,
it's also a rehash of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
yeah, I see it now.
It's a running joke that it's like that, but after actually like going back and rereading the plot for Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and then Kill la Kill, I was like, holy shit, it's the same.
Yeah.
But Kill la Kill
nuts.
it's masterfully done. Studio Trigger is great. There's a ton of anime, and I watched the other day. It broke my heart a little bit, but then like I had a lot of complaints about it. Devilman. And
Yeah.
Devilman was really good, and it was fresh. It's plagued with problems plot wise because it's too fast. It doesn't let you like it could have been 2 seasons and let you like intake. And a lot of what they did, it was like, this is great, like, oh shit's going, like, everything's going like out the window. And then like by the end of it, like you're just kind of like, it forces you to be sad because of the things it does, because it's normally not done in a lot of anime. But then when you think and sit about it, it's like, I didn't really connect with anyone besides the 2 main characters. So that was like my complaint about it. But shows like that are like, yeah, give me more. Castlevania was great.
Yeah,
That was fun. We just need more, like, I want more Western influence in anime. It needs it. Just because I think the mix would be good. And I think the anime industry needs to open up a little bit in its demographic, because the reason why anime quote unquote dying, it's because it's appealing to otakus. And the reason why it does that, it's because it's the only kind of people that will buy the products, the DVDs, the Blu-rays, the subscription services, or the figures.
yeah.
Not Crunchyroll. Don't subscribe. Like, Crunchyroll, don't do it. It doesn't help the industry at all.
But yeah, Japan's very slow on the innovation. Like media consumption, the way we consume media is already far advanced into the future, and they still expect to make money off of DVD box sales.
Yeah,
And that's fucking nuts.
yeah. And I think here's my opinion on it. I think the existence of Netflix is a great potential for anime, and it's starting to work because we're getting stuff like Devilman, we're getting Castlevania, we're getting not necessarily always good stuff, but we're getting that industry, like the Western industry, seeping into that, not necessarily creatively, just like injecting money into it and being like, hey, like Westerners are into this, like, open up a little bit.
Oh man, Netflix is making a big play into anime. At least just this month, 3 new series
Yeah.
showed up on Netflix.
Yeah, sometimes we'll get shit like Neo Yokio, but I can look
Oh,
past
man.
that. I can look past that over
That
getting
is
good shows and stuff like that.
Hollywood nepotism at its
Oh my
finest.
god. I like when I heard it was Jaden it was this anime, I was like, fucking cunt. Like, I wish it was me with that amount of money, because I could have made
Right.
something. Fucking 5 episodes made something more interesting than whatever he fucking served me on a shit platter. But I guess I'll save some last 10 minutes for free talk. So if anyone has any questions for either me or Jin, we'd happily answer them, or if you guys have any stuff you want to add to the conversation, we're here. Let me see. Oh, did I miss the talk about? You know what? Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure, I'm game.
Okay. What's your weirdest commission request?
Oh man. Just very early on in the career, while practicing anatomy, I would follow what my teacher suggested and blow up the anatomy of the muscles in order to make it clear what everything was. And it just, after I showed off some of that work, every single request afterwards has been about giant muscle bound women. And it got to a point where the latest request was this woman whose pectorals overshadowed the breasts, and the pubic hair somehow gone all the way up to like the first abdominal muscles. It was disgusting, but yeah, that is by far the weirdest thing I've probably encountered so far. I'll have to think of some more, but yeah.
I'm trying to
Nightmares,
think.
man.
I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think. What's something weird that I've gotten? I've had I don't know, maybe by divine intervention, a really good track record of not getting weird shit. Because I'm trying to think, what kind of stuff I've gotten over the years. I think it was either. No, it wasn't that. No, that wasn't it. It wasn't Lana Kane. Oh my god. It was like, okay, first of all, tentacles weird me out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like tentacles at all. I don't like them. I'll like, I see an octopus and that shit like freaks me out. Like, I don't remember, but it was something weird with tentacles, and there was a lot of gaping in it, and I was like, no, it's not for me.
Yeah.
No, thank you. But I haven't gotten like something that kind of weird. I've seen people just get like the guy that got that like the commission for like did I send you the pollution stuff? And the one about like white women buying white bread.
Oh yeah. I saw those. Yeah, that was nuts.
Okay.
Like who? Wait, who drew those?
I can't remember. I know that it was a guy that commissioned different artists, and
he would just do women buying white bread for some reason.
Yeah, it was women buying white bread, and then there was another one where it was like white women and in the background it was like contamination, like either them littering or like in the background it was like contamination happening, and like it's weird shit.
Can't top this guy, but. I've sifted through my commission request mailbox, and there was one about a furry red foxed angel. It was angel with 2 dicks. Yeah. So that red fox, whatever that type of fox is, angel wings, and 2 penises, and then corruption. Turning her victims into furries.
Oh my god. Yeah. I know that I think the weirdest thing, my go-to is Mode 7. If I want to see anything that's been weird, it's just like
that's true.
He's drawn it.
And
if he hasn't been commissioned it, he'll draw it.
Yeah.
And he'll think about something, it's like a microphone that turns into a dick and like fuck someone, like he's like the Stephen King of adult art, where it's like it's just weird shit.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, and I think I'll let people decide any last questions they might have. But I think I remembered something that I wanted to talk about really quick, and it was the what's the weirdest shit you've gotten in your inbox, like, or ask or anything, like not commission related.
Oh man. I guess what surprised me the most was I got a lot of Chinese fan mail. They just Well, I guess they assume I'm Chinese from the username Yin Yue, but I don't know how to fucking read Chinese. So I get a couple of these letters that I have to pump into Google Translate because I'm a Twinkie.
uh,
And they're just congratulating me or saying nice things, and I have to figure out how to reply
Respond.
to them. Yeah, by pumping my reply into Google Translate.
How do you
Chucking
tell a Chinese man that you don't speak Chinese, but you're Chinese?
it. Oh man,
That's like,
probably very shamefully.
yeah, that's like my cousin. Like, we're Latino, and like my cousin doesn't
Mhm.
speak. Like, she understands Spanish, and I'm pretty sure she can speak. She doesn't speak it at all.
Ah,
So
I
every time my
see.
family's over, it's like, you won't speak Spanish, but you're like part of the family, and like your dad's Colombian, and like it's kind of like and she's just like sitting there like awkwardly, and I feel so bad for her.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's the weirdest shit. Here's the thing: the niche I'm in, or we're in,
yeah.
it's special because it's not like every other like a boob artist or whatever, like where it's kind of broad and like people are kind of, this is unfair to say, but like more controlled hormonally, I guess. And that's not being a detriment or anything. It's just like it's more of like I just get a lot of people. I've been explicit about I'm not a role player,
Yeah.
so I get a lot of people role playing. Not even or I just get. I don't like insulting people. I'm not trying to like. It's just like there's some people that take it a little far, and I've gotten like people writing very strange things on my inbox. Just writing, I can't think of the top of my head exact words, but it's always I'm not very comfortable like with reading or getting smut on my inbox, like written stuff about how they want to
Yeah.
suck a dick really hard or something like that. I'm very like that kind of stuff makes me really uncomfortable. And I get a lot of it. Despite being someone that's like in that kind of industry. Yeah, okay, here's one like, hey there, wanna snuggle? Yeah, that kind of shit. I'll get it a lot. That's like the most inoffensive stuff, and I can look over it and just be
Mhm.
like, on my like on Tumblr, my messenger's open to anyone, and like I'll get a lot of it, and it's like yeah, you know, I'll be like, hey, sorry, like I don't really role play, like thank you, I appreciate it. I try to be nice about it, but some people take it, whew, they kick it up a notch, and I'm just kind of like, you know, calm down, my good sir or ma'am, like, uh, kick it down a notch. But yeah, I think that's like the weird shit. I can't really pinpoint one. I think I showed you guys like one time once, like something weird I got, and it wasn't the most weird stuff I got, but it was kind of like it made me laugh a lot because I was kind of uncomfortable a little bit. So,
Mhm.
and like I don't mind getting like I do mind it, but it's kind of like if it's an offensive, I don't mind it. Where it's kind of like the attempt at roleplay. It's just like when people kind of kick it up a notch and they get really like into the like hardcore shit right off the bat. It's like whoa, like just buy me dinner at least. Like holy
Right.
shit. And I think there's a lot of cases where people will, it still happens, but people think I'm a girl. So I'll
Yep.
get people in my inbox hitting on me,
That does happen occasionally.
and it's like just because I like drawing dicks, doesn't mean I'm a girl, And
Right.
they're like, "Oh, so you played for the other team?" I'm like, "Not really, but good try." Some people need to chill down.
Yep.
Oh boy, people seem to enjoy that kind of talk.
Yeah.
Uh, well, if anyone doesn't have any other questions, I guess we'll be wrapping it up a little in a minute or two. But how did you feel about the format? I mean, I guess we didn't get it very structured, but we follow kind of a little bit of a, what's it called? Well, not kind of a structure. Like at least we started off with you, and then we went off in a tangent.
Yeah. We had a topics plan. Yeah.
Yeah, there were topics planned, and like, I think this works. I don't like being. Here's the thing. I'm not a very. It's not that I'm not an organized person. I'm not very. I don't believe in this kind of when it's this kind of stuff. I don't believe in being too structured, because it then becomes boring. Because then you're. I don't want to be too bogged down on time. I want to keep it within like an hour's time or something like that. But don't want to be like strict about like, okay, this is what we have to talk today, or like it just needs to be like talking, and like, you know, sharing ideas and stuff like that. It can't always be about the same topics, but bringing different people in usually helps with not just talking about the same thing. I don't want. It's gonna happen eventually, because we're gonna. It's, you know, we're gonna end up talking about stuff that happens in the world. I do want to avoid in the future, hopefully not getting too political about it. That's my only like stipulation when I bring people in, because obviously it's good because it's sharing different ideas and stuff like that. But sometimes I don't mind it, certainly, because I can be very courteous about it and like very disciplined and being respectful of other people's opinion. But I feel like sometimes like getting political about it, it's kind of like people don't want to hear it, because they hear it every day, and you kind of just want to take a Sunday to like unwind and then fucking crash. And
Hell yeah.
You don't need to listen about like two people talk about subjects they have no idea about or something like that, because I don't fucking read the news, and I can't really be very informed about speaking of whatever's going on. So I try to avoid those subjects, because it's not people aren't interested in hearing that. They hear it all the time, and it's not just political, just like world events. Like people like are kind of sick of it, and they want to like when they come to stuff like this, they want a break of it. They don't go to like Twitch or watch a streamer to hear people talk about, you know, what do you think about guns? And you're just kind of like, you know, I didn't come for this. I just want to hear people talk shit about like, I don't know, Star Wars, or like talk about like dicks, or I don't know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're not here for that. Like even we like we feel the news even though we don't watch it, and we're just kind of sick of it. So I want to keep those subjects off for like future podcasts, and if it seeps in, fine, I'll talk about it, but then let's fucking move on. Yeah. Just because we're coming up a little bit on time, so Jin, thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here.
Once I make I'm gonna edit this video and everything, so once that's up, I'll be sure to put your information in the Tumblr and like wherever. On my Discord, I will be sure to put your sites too. Even though you're there, I'll still put it up.
All right, sweet.
So yeah, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon, man.
All right.
Have a good night, everyone.